Welcome to the Nonfiction Writers Podcasting in a Great Way. I'm Ryan Aber, joined by Jason Kersey. Today we have a special guest, former OU fullback J.D. Runnels. J.D., how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Good, man. Ready for the football. Can't lie.
Absolutely. It's not too far away. Certainly Big 12 Media Day is less than a month away at this point. It's amazing how fast it creeps up on you, but we're all ready for it.
Yeah, well, it never ends. And, for those guys, it really never ends. I mean, this is the time of the year that they don't want to be in, but this is where it's all won. I'll look back and, especially in the business that I'm in now, personal training, I mean, it really is a deal where more times than not, the team that outworks the other is going to win. And the team that has more chemistry, that puts more effort into camaraderie and things like that, it usually works out. I know it did for us. And obviously that Alabama game, they're still, holding up to the same tricks.
What's the biggest memory from your summer workouts when you were at OU, working with Schmitty and those guys?
There's so many of them. I remember the leadership. I remember a day where Dan Cody and I were getting just beat by Rhett Bomar in these four trippers, and Dan had his way of not letting that happen. And it just some of the competition that we had, you'd sit there and do it, and after such and such hours of work, which is a different story, it dawned on you like, wow, I mean, I can't believe I'm able to even do this type of stuff. I can't even believe I'm able to run this fast or keep up this long. And then, you just have that mentality of, it doesn't matter. The season's almost here. It's July. Let's get it going. 3 weeks left of this stuff. So let's just get into training camp,
JD, I remember when I talked to you a couple months ago, you said that one of the greatest accomplishments of your OU career was getting a T-shirt from Schmitty at the end of the summer.
Yeah. Well, that is, obviously they can't buy you gifts. And, Schmitty's big deal is if everybody, which it doesn't really happen, but, the guys that make all their times, that are able to lead the group, that have enough stamina and endurance to bear Schmitty, to be a leader, that's what you have to do. And, one of my, it's a prized possession is just a simple T-shirt that he got me. And, I know that led to me being named captain my senior year was, just taking those workouts to a different level and, really taking the team on your back and wanting the ball. For my, standpoint, it was wanting the football, wanting to be out there to block for Adrian, things like that. So, my two most prized possessions are, that T-shirt and then, being named captain that year, which, captain has no T-shirt, but just the name of it to me, it speaks volumes. It's a special deal. That's something where it's the best of the best. I mean, there's, during my era, that was it was Teddy Lehman, Dusty Dvorak. It was, Tommy Harris. It was Jason White, Mark Clayton. These were guys that I really, really looked up to on the football field.
It's sort of been an interesting offseason between Gabe Eichert and Postagate and the Ed O'Bannon case, and there's the whole concept, I guess, of college athletics might be turned on its head before too long. And I know you have been outspoken about that before. Has this offseason seemed kind of as crazy and interesting to you as it has maybe to us?
Well, definitely. I think you guys are on the side, Jason, where you're at least willing to listen and at least willing to hear the athlete's case of, look, we really are overworked when it comes to sports, and that in return that affects our academics. And it does not, when we talk about getting every dollar out of a scholarship, I mean, you're really getting more dollars out of football. So I think the public perception is hopefully at least they're going to listen to what's going on, because it's silly at some points of the deal. The pasta deal, that's silly. Meals. Most people don't understand that we don't get out of study hall until 9 or 10 o'clock. Well, the cafeteria wasn't open, We couldn't take to-go boxes. They banned those because the steak night was so good, So, it's just a push-pull of what's fair. And then, most people, the common person is 200 pounds. Well, we're dealing with guys that are 300 to 350 pounds.
Yeah.
And some of these guys are trying to put on weight and things like that. It's a scary slope when you tell people that they can't do something. And, especially with the money that's involved. And then you bring in the type of kids that we're bringing in, and we're not academic scholars. I mean, so we're football players, and the whole argument to me is are we compensating football players for the overtime that they're putting in?
What do you think about the Northwestern unionization thing? I know that obviously they didn't go through with it, but at least got the right to unionize if they wanted to, and the thought that football players or college athletes in general are employees of the university in some way.
Well, I think it's a big step, and I think it's a step in the right direction. Again, I mean, the public needs to just hear both sides. The people need to hear both sides. They need to hear that in some cases, there are athletes. We bring in athletes who don't have a dollar to their name, who don't have a car, who don't have, this scholarship is all that they have. And there's no security for some of these athletes. If they're cut off scholarship, which happens, if they, want to transfer, they can't. You're just put in a rough spot. And again, when you start talking about, I also went on to the NFL. I mean, this is some of the same things that we deal with when we talk about strikes and lockouts and the entire field. Healthcare for these guys, there's got to be a safety net for them. I mean, if Adrian Peterson, which happens, I mean, he dealt with a shoulder and a collarbone. Are we going to take care of our boy when he's gone? If he's not able to play, is it just fair that we just give him a scholarship the rest of the way because the general public thinks that, student loans are too expensive, which, hey, I agree with. But, again, this guy had some NFL talent, Marcus Lattimore. I mean, that 2 ACLs cost him millions and millions of dollars that he'll never get back. And, the insurance policy, from what I understand, is only if it's a lifetime injury. So,
yeah, right.
I mean, again, it's like, look, you have very limited options when it comes to this. And again, that's just where it gets scary to me is when we start limiting teenagers who may not have a bunch of money, who may not have a bunch of life skills or a bunch of things to fall back on, a bunch of resources. And again, I mean, we're talking about dealing with kids. We're talking about dealing with 17 to 21-year-old hungry guys that want to have fun, So, I mean, that's, again, my point, just listen. Just hear all what's out there. And if the student athlete tells you something's going on, Rashad McCants, the whole story. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard it on Outside the Lines, but I mean,
yeah.
You got to listen. You got to listen to that. I mean, I doubt he's lying. So,
absolutely.
Who knows? You got to listen to it.
And Indiana University came out, I believe it was last week, with what they call the Athletes' Bill of Rights that included some expanded medical care for athletes who get injured down the line. I believe a scholarship where if you are there at least 2 years and leave for any reason, as long as you're in good standing and don't get kicked out, that your scholarship is good. If you, for instance, a basketball player who went pro could come back and get his education a few years later, things like that. How big of a step are these things that keep happening? It seems like at schools. Indiana did it. I believe USC has done it with going from year to year to 4-year scholarships where they guarantee a student, as long as he or she is in good academic standing, that their scholarship is good for that 4 years. How big of a step is this, and is this more of a sign that we've reached critical mass where there's going to be big changes with the NCAA?
Well, I think at some point it has to be. I think when you look at that, and, you guys already mentioned the O'Bannon case. I mean, NCAA games are going in and out. I mean, they're at least listening to it. The pop gates, the things are kind of changing. I think when you start to hear exactly what's going on, Jay and Ryan, I think you're really going to understand that it's football and these major college sports are it's a totally different entity. And we deal with totally different rules that regular students don't deal with. We deal with dude, you don't know how many times I got bugged by regular students for autographs and things like that. I mean, and this turns into, well, now you got professors and things like that. They're regular people too. You know, they like us. They're asking for autographs. I mean, you know, you deal with certain things that kids, you can't put a price tag on fame, is my thing. And they're trying to limit a kid's earning potential. And I don't think that that's fair. You know, I don't think that you can sit there and tell a 17 to 21-year-old kid who, again, most of the teammates that I played with didn't have that much. Let's just be real with you guys. You know, I was one of the fortunate guys. I believe like 5 or 6 of us had a car coming into OU. You know, I mean, we carpooled everywhere, you know. So, again, if we're signing into this deal, you know, going Division I is the cream of the crop. I mean, that's one out of, I don't know the statistics, but I've heard it's 1 out of 250,000 kids in high school, you know, that go Division I football or basketball. I mean, this is a deal where kids are put into a position where they have to produce, and they have to produce overtime, and they're not really compensated. They don't really have a safety net for them, and they're basically bound to a sport harder than they are to class. And that's where we are these days. We're more worried about missing practice than we are missing class. You know, and that, again, this is just that's how the system is right now.
Yeah, you talked about limiting earning potential, and you look at a guy like Johnny Manziel last year where he was, some people said he was selling his autographs, but either way you see not only the school making money selling his jersey, selling just the image of Johnny Manziel, but to see other entities, autograph dealers and things like that turning around and making the kind of profits that they're making off of these big-name players is just mind-boggling.
Sure, and why can't he? And, you know, I get that a lot of players wouldn't make money, but, you know, it again, Division I football and basketball, they deal with certain things. We deal with certain memorabilia. You know, Bob got this at everybody bringing footballs in at one time when we were about to make 2 national titles in a row. And he made us sit in one room, and he said anybody that wants a ball for their family can bring a ball up. And he had all the starters sit in the room, and we signed probably 1,000 footballs in one day, you know, so we could just get it out the way and nobody had to sign footballs anymore. You know, there's a lot of instances of this going on around the country. I mean, I could imagine the top 5 countries, especially that's going on at these schools. You know, they want, even though you played, I can't remember the quarterback's name, but I love that kid. You know, I'd want his autograph if I was on campus, you know.
Yeah.
I love his game. You know, some of these other schools, Big Ten schools, Penn State went through whatever they went through. I mean, I'd want to sign football by their team. I just would. You know,
yeah.
I like football like that.
Yeah.
But the foundation is what is shaking. I think is what guys are getting to. And with this foundation of, you know, we had athletes, you know, that
Well, you know, when you played, obviously you were a pretty popular player around town. When you and somebody I think people recognize when you went out, when you were out on Campus Corner, or when you were out, you know, someplace, were you offered free food, free drinks, and if so, how hard is that stuff to turn down for a college kid?
It's very hard, and you know, I'm proud to say, Jason, that I did not take one handout when I was in college. I didn't. And, you know, for people that know me, my mother passed away when I was in college, and she did a great job of taking care of me, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that stuff because you know, Jason won the Heisman my sophomore year, and I couldn't go out to bars, quote fingers, until my junior year. And
yeah.
so I didn't do that type of stuff. And then when I did, you know, for me, it was pretty easy, again, because I had dealt with a different situation. But, you know, Jason, that's something that I've talked to you about. You know, me being named the captain, I feel like this is something that I have to speak on because, you know, half of my team was, I'll say this comfortably, half of my team came from impoverished situations. You know, a lot of them came from really, really bad homes. And, you know, that's just the reality of it, you know? I mean, a lot of these kids I have to speak up for. They have a great opportunity. I want them to seize that opportunity, and I want them to get the best possible exposure in football and get the best degree that they can.
How I know that the players, and I know you have a special relationship and love for Bob Stoops. But even so, is it difficult for players to understand sometimes when, just recently he gets a raise, he's making $5 million a year. There's not a coach on the staff making less than $300,000 a year. Are those things tough for players to understand sometimes?
Absolutely. We're fortunate at OU because we pump so many guys into the draft that it's not as big of a factor as I would seem. But it's definitely a factor. It's something that Bob Stoops also talks about. One of the things that I'm fond about of Bob is that it's open. And, just as much as he'll, joke about, they pay me a lot, but, on the other side, he has a lot of responsibilities to deal with. Mm-hmm. He has 85 kids, and again, a lot of my teammates, he's their dad. He is their brother. He's one of their only family members that they had. So he deserves every penny, and I guess the biggest thing is players just wonder, well, why can't we do this? Why can't we make that type of money? Why can't we walk around with $5,000 or $10,000, or why can't we accept any money that somebody's trying to give to us because we're broke? I mean, and again, that's the situation that a lot of us dealt with. I mean, when I came out of high school, I was single parent home at that time. My mom had cancer for a year. My brother and sister were both in college, trying to do their thing and, coming out as teachers. So it's not a situation for a lot of people. It's not a good financial situation for a lot of people that we're put in. Absolutely.
And JD, we're going to shift gears a little bit. I wanted to ask you about the stadium expansion that was announced last week. Obviously, some things that are going to be really noticeable. The south end zone is going to change dramatically. The west side of the stadium is going to change dramatically. What do you think about that, especially from the perspective of a player and some of the amenities that are going to be added with the weight room and meeting rooms and things like that in the south end?
Well, I'm extremely excited about that stuff. You got to keep up with the Joneses. I tweeted about A&M having expansion, and I've heard that theirs is a little more, they're, I guess, going overboard and doing $400 and something million, but it may be structurally messed up from the shaking or whatever. I'm proud of OU doing that. I really am. I'm proud that we're able to have a place like Headington Hall and a place like a stadium like that, because it means a lot. I think the locker room and stadium are very, very important, and the dorms. I don't think as much indoor facilities are that big, but I guess they are expanding those as well. I'm happy for them. I'm extremely happy for the university, and it's just nice to know that we had a part in that our success back in the day, the couple of national title runs or title appearances that we had, 3 BCS games. It's nice to know that our work is paving the way for the future. And I see a small picture of something, a tradition that's carried on. I saw the summer kids reporting about a month ago. All the incoming freshmen, and they had a picture of them sitting in it's like a little meeting room when you first get there, and everybody's dropping their bags off. And, usually when we did that, it was at the Bud Wilkinson. And, I made the comment that the Bud Wilkinson had a big RCA flat screen, not a flat screen, just an old school RCA 1,000-pound TV, in there. And, 2 or 3 recliners that people could, sit in. And now they've got this huge theater room with, seats out of the wazoo, and the meeting room that they were meeting in where I saw the picture was just beautiful. Just all those things. And so it's nice. And it trickles down. The biggest thing is now that the Bud Wilkinson will be open for student housing. So those regular students can enjoy those rooms that we were in.
It's funny. I think they're going to renovate that and make it into some offices or classrooms. I think they announced
there you go.
The other day. So it's definitely going to get a use. But there's going to be a lot changing on that side of campus outside of just the football stadium that Jason and
That's
I
awesome.
heard about last week at the Regents meeting. JD, the position you played has been talked about as always Bob Stoops' favorite. Whoever's in that spot is going to be his favorite player just because of the versatility it brings. You've got a guy going out of that spot and a guy coming in this year. First of all, the guy coming in, Dimitri Flowers, has gotten a lot of attention for some of the stuff that he did in the spring. He graduated early in order to come in January. What do you think about him from what you know so far?
Well, the fullbacks were always, it's amazing how similar a lot of us are, yet how diverse. And what I mean by that is it seems like Dimitri can do everything but throw. Him catching the ball downfield and making some of the moves he made, for one in the spring game. He looks like a miniature Trey out there, and the versatility that you're seeing from Trey as running back, I think will only lead Dimitri to want to be better than that. And, I was really shocked at how good he was that early. And how high a praise that Trey was giving him as well. I think he's got a good leader in Ripkowski to learn from as far as blocking. One of the things that I tell the fullbacks is we can't get caught up in catching the ball because the chances of it happening 10 times a game are slim, and we've got to remember that we're out there to block first.
But go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, but he's going to get some balls though, so I'm happy for him.
I was about to say it had to warm your heart in the spring game, seeing I believe 3 of the first 4 balls thrown his way. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, it's nice to play a part and see something like that and think of tradition and think of, Seth Luttrell was only able to catch flat route and how it evolved to myself being able to just catch flat routes. And then you look at Matt Clapp doing the same thing, Dane Zasbaugh doing the same thing, and they start moving us around, and Brody Eldridge is, able to move around. And before you know it, you've got a Trey Miller just getting drafted. Now we're in the situation where we've got 2 really good fullbacks that can play. Ripkowski caught a touchdown from tight end. Dimitri's going to be able to play in the backfield, probably a tight end as well. So it's going to keep on getting more versatile, and I look forward to it. I really do.
Trey Millard, you mentioned gets drafted, even after the disappointing way his collegiate career ended. You're a guy who played fullback at OU and obviously played in the NFL as well. What sort of future do you see for Trey Millard as a 49er?
I see a really good future. The fact that they're taking a draft pick and using you, especially when you're coming off of an injury, means something, whether it's 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, or 7th round like you went. Fullback's a tough position. It really is. And in the NFL, it gets a little bit tougher. But I think the thing that Trey has that I didn't is size. And what I mean by that is you go back and look at, everybody remembers me from the Hard Knocks episode, and they can't really understand why, I was playing so well, and then Cincinnati cut me anyway. Well, if you remember in the episode, 2 of our tight ends, Ben Utek and Reggie Kelly, Ben had a severe concussion. Reggie Kelly tore his Achilles. Both of those guys got hurt. And so now their offense, instead of being able to be a versatile with tight ends that can split out and have your tight ends move around and have your fullback move around, now they were thinking, well, we need bigger guys. We need guys. We're playing Baltimore twice a year. We're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers twice a year. We're playing our rival, the Cleveland Browns, twice a year. We're going to need bigger tight ends and bigger fullbacks. So that's why they kept the guys that were all over, the 3 guys, fullbacks over 260, and cut the small guy, which is me. So that's the part of the league that's ugly. But again, Trey's a 6'3" guy. He's shown that he can play with his hand in the ground. I don't know that they'll do that